a very special position. According to the tradition of us, they consider the Vedas to be confirmed. They are not written. So they exist even before the creation of Brahma. From a previous universe, the previous universe, the previous universe, the previous universe. No creation of the Vedas. Obviously, in fact, it never became but they may appear from the Lord in each universe or from the mouth of Brahma in each universe. So that is the position of Shruti, and they're unchangeable. The words are unchangeable forever. So that's the quality of Shruti as compared to the other words. Historically speaking, of course, for modern historians and the Vedas are some of the oldest written works in the world. But that's only 2,200 years old or whatever. If we go back further, we'll have Syria and Babylon. In the world, 50 people can read some scholars. But the Vedas, so many people can still read. So this is from modern. They're very, very old scriptures. And you have a Bible, for instance, that's 2,500 years old. Quran, that's Buddhist, that's. So even by modern history, Vedas are very, very ancient. One still current, and it's still residing in studies. Of course, the language is also unique. Because it's a very highly developed language and also systematically developed. So all the rules are laid out very systematically by English grammar. This is very difficult to do for most languages. Systematically lay all the rules. Like English language, you cannot really systematically, pronunciation or whatever, spelling, it's all very irregular. But for the Sanskrit language, very, very regular. And in fact, some computer people, they think it's an ideal language for using in computer language. It's so logical. And you can codify everything into rules. So in that sense, it's also quite unique. Of course, we also say that real sounds themselves are also eternal. They're eternal with the creation of the material world. They're essential to the creation. So they got some, let's say, very intrinsic sound. The sound has some intrinsic value in it, which is also eternal. Anyway, more important than that is the meaning that comes out of the Vedas. So that's what is most important. Anyway, the Vedas are considered to be the root text. But there's not just one Veda, we have 4 Vedas. Rig Veda, Yajurveda, Samveda, Atharva Veda. But they are also each one is vast. So we don't just have one text, like one Bible or one Quran. Many, many texts. But even the Rig Veda has many texts in it. So each Veda has Brahmanas, Aranyakras, Upanishads, and Santa. So right there, we got 16 types of work within the Vedas themselves. And we'll have not just one Upanishad, we'll have many Upanishads with each Veda. We'll have some Aranyakas and some Brahmanas for each Veda. So we got quite a few ancient texts to deal with. For instance, here, the Samveda, one of the Upanishads is Chandogya. and Kena Upanishad, very, very famous. And in the Yajurveda, we have the Isopanishad, or the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, the Katha Upanishad. So a lot of texts are there. Besides that, then we have other works which are not Shruti, which means they're not eternal, in the sense that Vedavyas writes Mahabharata at a certain point in time, and it wasn't there before. Of course, we can say every day he'll write, every day of Brahma he'll write a Mahabharata, but it will not be the same Mahabharata. It'll be slightly different. So the words are not eternal, because the history changes. So at each day of Brahma, the events may be slightly different. There'll be a battle of Kurukshetra, but some events will be different, some personalities will be different, etc. So the words are not exactly the same all the time. So that's the difference between the Vedas and the other works which we accept as Vedic literature. They're not eternal and fixed forever. But that doesn't make them any less prominent or important, because the meaning is the same. So they have the same meaning, and therefore they're equally important in that sense. I guess so.
Bhagavatam stories, they are different kalpa. Like the Mahabharata is of different kalpa and Bhagavatam is of this kalpa.
Oh, okay.
So how to understand that we are Mahabharata, but it's not the Mahabharata in this kalpa, but from the last kalpa? Why?
Oh, I see. Yeah. Well, I don't know if our acharyas say that. I think they're quoting, of course, they do say some of the events are different. So therefore they'll say that was another kalpa. For instance, the story of Parikshit and how he put himself on an island and protected himself from the snake bite or whatever like that. Then he said, this is different kalpa. So some things they say, but maybe not all things they say are from different kalpas. So, yeah. Because there are differences between the stories in some cases. So therefore they sometimes attribute that to different kalpas. But of course, anyway, that doesn't mean that the Mahabharata war didn't take place in this kalpa. There has been one, but maybe some of the events that record are coming from a different kalpa, to mix the two together. We see that also in the stories of Bhagavatam itself. Sometimes they mix the different Manvantara stories, a Varaha from one Manvantara to the Varaha from another Manvantara like that together. They get a different story like that, like the red form of Varaha and the black form or whatever like that, and they mix the two stories together. So there are, some slight details like that sometimes. So anyway, these texts are constantly written, and there'll be slight differences in each kalpa, each day of Brahma. So that sense they're different from the Vedas, they're distinguished from the Vedas. But nonetheless, still they are authoritative. So we have these very long works, also very interesting. So these are not so, modern history, not so ancient as the Vedas. The Vedas 5,000 years ago, historians put Mahabharata, I don't know, maybe 1,500 years ago or whatever. I don't know, they'll say that, but we'll say it's still 5,000 years ago. Because that's when Vedavyas wrote these works, one time of Krishna. But anyway, modern historians put a more recent date on it. In spite of that, these works are very huge also. They're very big works as epics. And you compare them to the epics around the world, they're much bigger. So the famous epics in world literature are the Iliad and Odyssey of Homer. Maybe you've heard of them in school, yeah? And a lot of Western literature, English literature is influenced largely by these works, and they quote the stories from there, and the characters in there, like Shakespeare will refer to those heroes or whatever like that, and poets will refer to those things. But if we compare the book itself, you'll see the Mahabharata like this, I thought it looks like this. Very little, even though they're called epics. So the Mahabharata is very, very huge. It's a huge work as an epic. And similarly with the Ramayana. Another difference, of course, is that the Mahabharata and Ramayana have lots of stories in them, whereas the Vedas concentrate on praises, different verses of praises, riks and shuktas, etc., and different usage of verses for sacrifices, etc., like that. whereas the Mahabharata and Ramayana are all about stories. So the principles of the Vedas are illustrated through stories, histories. As well as that, we get Puranas. So Vedavyas, as well as writing Mahabharata, wrote the 18 major Puranas. 16 6 for the people in Tamagod, like the Shiva Purana or Linga Purana, which largely glorify Lord Shiva. And this is to attract the people in Tamagod, because he's in charge of Tamagod. 6 Puranas for the people in Rajagun. So in those Puranas, we get Brahma glorified a lot. And 6 Puranas for the people in Sattva, in which Vishnu is glorified a lot, because Vishnu is in charge of Sattva. So for different types of people, Vedavyas wrote different Puranas, and he praises Shiva in the Tamasic Puranas, and Brahma in the Rajasic Puranas, and Vishnu in the Sattvic Puranas. We have 18 of those Puranas. So this is a common division, which nobody really disputes. Even the scholars will also say this. And the Matsya Purana also that talks about these divisions, Sattvic Puranas, Rajasic, and Tamasic Puranas. That doesn't mean that Vedavyas who wrote them is Tamasic, but he's writing about Shiva a lot to attract the people in Tamagod, because he's in charge of Tamagod. As well as that, we have a lot of works, maybe 19 or 21 Smritis, which are works which explain the rules of Varnashram, like Manu Smriti. So it describes all the different rules and regulations in the different ashramas, etc. And also the rules for leaders, etc. So these are another whole group of works called Smriti. But we also have Pancharatra, which are Vaishnavic works, which largely describe all about Vishnu and his expansions, and they also describe about temple worship, the conduct of the Vaishnava, holding festivals for the deities, etc. Like that. There's 108 texts of this. We consider all of these things: the Vedas, the Puranas, the Smriti Shastras, the Pancharatra, the Itihasas like Mahabharata, Ramayana, as bona fide scriptures, as was stated in the quote from the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. And of course, we also have the Brahma Sutras, written by Vedavyas as a summary of the Upanishads, which are part of the Veda. So to make things simple, so that people don't get confused because there's too many things, we just said one word, Bhagavatam. This is the conclusion after all these different works. So Vedavyas did not write the Vedas, but he collected them, compiled them, divided them into 4 divisions, and then gave them to his disciples to carry on in the Parampara system. But he did write the Brahma Sutras, a commentary on Upanishads, which are part of the Vedas. He did write Mahabharata and the Puranas. But then he felt this is all too complicated for people of Kali Yuga. So therefore, Narada Muni told him, therefore you write one work for the people of Kali Yuga so that they don't get confused. And just indicate one object of worship, one method of attainment. So he wrote the Bhagavatam. So that's why we study Srimad Bhagavatam instead of everything. So in this way, the Bhagavatam is the sum of all of those literatures, etc. So that's glorified, of course, in the Mahabharata is glorified, and Garuda Purana, they glorify the Srimad Bhagavatam. So Bhagavatam is very special, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu particularly has pointed this work out as the essence of everything, but he's not the only person. So we find that in the Vallabha Sampradaya, they also study largely Srimad Bhagavatam, and Vallabhacharya has written a whole commentary on the whole of the Bhagavatam, all 12 cantos, like that. And even other Sampradayas, like in the Sri Sampradaya, one devotee has written a commentary, Madhvas has written a commentary, the followers of Madhva have written a commentary on it. Other people, famous persons have written commentaries as well, so it's not just Lord Chaitanya, but others as well have written commentaries on the Srimad Bhagavatam. So Bhagavatam is like an avatar, just as the Lord appears as Matsya avatar among the fish, or as Varaha, the boar avatar among the animals, or as Hamsa avatar among the birds, or as Krishna among the humans, or as Upendra, as Vamana among the Devatas. So among scriptures, he appears as Bhagavatam. So there's a very special presence in Srimad Bhagavatam, which is like the crown jewel of all scriptures. So what makes Bhagavatam so special other than the summary of all the Vedic knowledge? So there are several things which are interesting in the Srimad Bhagavatam. So one point is that the Bhagavatam is all-inclusive in its definition of God. We will find many religions will have a conception and definition of God, and they will fight with other religions to say, my God is the best, my God is the best, believe in this or believe in that. Bhagavatam takes a more liberal view. It doesn't say everybody's God, but that God does have different forms, some of which look completely different. So we have this conception of Brahman, which is very impersonal. No form, no qualities, no activities, which is proposed by impersonalists, Shankaracharya, and philosophers like Gautama, etc. So it's an impersonal conception of God with no form. Okay? That's one conception, and Bhagavatam also accepts it as part of the concept of God. Right? But then we have a more personal form of God as the creator, which is something which is accepted around the world. All religions will accept God as the creator, whether it's Christian, Muslim, Judaism, etc. God is the creator of the world. God has all knowledge. So they'll accept that much. So, of course, we give this a form. We call them Paramatma. Muslims and Christians, Judaism will not accept the form. They'll accept this creatorship, but no form. So they're a little bit between the no form and the Paramatma, somewhere in between. Right? Then we have God with a form, and who's the creator, etc. So this we call Paramatma, which is a little bit superior because it has a form. Then we go further than that, and we have a concept of Bhagavan. So like Paramatma, the Lord has a form, and he's the creator, etc. But the difference between Paramatma and Bhagavan is Bhagavan manifests more personal qualities, so you can establish a relationship with that form in bhakti. And the Lord can respond equally. So there's a personal relationship with God who has the form. And we also take a form. Right? So this is the concept of Bhagavan. So all of these are different concepts that look quite different, but they're all part of God according to the Srimad Bhagavatam. So we don't reject any of them, but we also say that Bhagavan, realization of superiority, Paramatma, or Brahman realization. So we're liberal in one sense, but at the same time, we also say that there's a superior realization. So the Bhagavatam itself accepts this. It says this popular read scripture, this quality is the absolute entity, Brahman, comparable to a lamp. So in the Bhagavatam itself, we have several comparisons for the Bhagavatam. So it's like a lamp. What does a lamp do? It lights. It's like gives enlightenment. So the Bhagavatam gives a general type of enlightenment. You're not the body. You're something spiritual. This, of course, is also quite popular with people who reach Sattva Gun, because the nature of Sattva Gun is prakash, or knowledge, which doesn't mean knowledge of Krishna, but at least means knowledge of Atma. So we naturally tend to think I'm not the body, I'm something else, but we don't know what that something else is. So people in Sattva Gun will tend towards this impersonal conception of God, as something other than material. So that is revealed in Bhagavatam itself. And through this realization, one can get rid of one's miseries. So a lot of people take to spiritual life because they're miserable, they're suffering. They want to get rid of the suffering. So that Bhagavatam will give this knowledge. You're not the body, you're the Atma, you're the soul, etc. Right? You can get rid of that ignorance. So this is called Adhyatma Jnana. That's illustrated here. Adhyatma Deepam. It's like a little lamp. So it gets rid of your ignorance. But in the Bhagavatam also, we got another comparison. Bhagavatam is like the sun. So sun and lamp are the same because they both have light. But there's also a difference, obviously, because the sun is much greater and more powerful. A little lamp cannot light up the whole world, cannot create seasons, summer and whatever. But the sun does that. It creates day and night, it creates seasons, etc. So the sun is very powerful. And it lights up like it is. So Bhagavatam is also like that, and Krishna is also like the sun. So that means more knowledge. That, of course, is in the first canto itself. This is Krishna departing Dwarka, arrived at Pravas, and then disappeared with the six opulence. This Purana, another form of the sun, has now risen in Kali Yuga for those who have lost their intelligence. So the Bhagavatam is like the sun in Kali Yuga. So not just a Deepa, it is like the sun. It's greater knowledge. What is that greater knowledge? So not only we are not the body, we are the soul, we get further knowledge. We can destroy many misconceptions about the form of the Lord, etc. And all of these false philosophies propagated by demons, etc. And as well, that knowledge will give joy to the devotees. So we get descriptions of the different avatars of the Supreme Lord, the Lord with his as Bhagavan, as opposed to Brahman and Parvama, etc. The Bhagavatam is also compared to the highest fruit on a desire tree of the Vedas. So the Vedas are considered to be a desire tree because they fulfill all your desires. If you want material things, you can get it through karma kanda. If you want liberation, you can get that through jnana kanda. If you want bhakti, you can get that also through the bhakti scriptures. It gives all things. But nevertheless, this, above all the scriptures, on the very top of the tree, is this one fruit called Bhagavatam. Very, very special. It is something more than artha, dhamma, kama, moksha, or even prema. That's the specialty of Bhagavatam. So something very, very special. This is mentioned in the first chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam itself. It talks about the fruit of the highest fruit on the tree, which is like a mango with no seedings and no skin. So you could drink it without chewing it. Of course, we drink through the ears. But very, very sweet. Quite different from everything else. So why is the Bhagavatam compared to the highest fruit of the desire tree? Which it will distinguish even from other bhakti scriptures. One, it presents Madhurya Rasa. So that we see in the Bhagavatam as we go through the 10th canto, we go up through the first chapter, 10th chapter, 20th chapter, and then we get the 29th chapter, and then we get a whole description of the Rasa Lila, which is like the center of the Bhagavatam. And that is a display of the superior nature of Madhurya Rasa. Okay? The Madhurya Rasa is revealed through the Bhagavatam more than any other scripture. That's one special thing in the Bhagavatam, which makes it very sweet. And in that Madhurya Rasa, we get revelation of Radha and Krishna as the essence of Madhurya Rasa. So that's also something very special in the Bhagavatam. And we get the method to attain Radha and Krishna and Madhurya Rasa, that is process of Bhakti Yoga. Okay? So these are the things in the Bhagavatam that make it very special, the highest fruit on the desire tree. Okay? So not only is the Bhagavatam summary of all the Vedic knowledge, etc., but also there's something quite unique, which is not in the other literatures. Okay? And it's special. Bhagavatam is also considered to be like Mohini Avatar. So everybody knows Mohini Avatar. She's a very unique he is a very unique avatar because it's a she. Kind of transformed. So Vishnu took the form of a woman, but because he is Vishnu, he can be the most attractive woman. More than any material woman can be attractive. So therefore called Mohini, most attractive and bewildering for everyone. So Mohini had a very special purpose here. That is to take the nectar from the demons. The demons, after the demons and devotees had churned the milk ocean and got the nectar, then the demons stole the nectar. The Devatas were depressed because if they don't get the nectar, they can't drink it. The demons drink it, the demons get very powerful and you can't defeat them. So they will conquer the Devatas. So the Devatas felt very depressed. So then Vishnu said, don't worry, I'll get the nectar for you. So he took the form of Mohini avatar to the demons. And the demons were fighting over the nectar. But then when they saw Mohini, they all became attracted to Mohini avatar because she's attractive. Even though it was Vishnu, they became attracted to her in that form. So then they said, they began to say, who's this beautiful woman? And they wondered what they were going to do with who she was. So then she spoke, and she said, she praised them, and they all felt very flattered. And then she said, give me the nectar. So, of course, they were quarreling over the nectar. And they heard her say, give me the nectar. They were a little puzzled. But then they said, oh, yes, we'll give her the nectar. She is so wonderful. She'll give it back to us because she's so wonderful. So they gave her the nectar. And then Mohini took the nectar and gave it to the Devatas. So that way she bewildered them. So Bhagavatam is like Mohini in the sense that it hides the sweetness in the very rasa, Radha, Krishna, and Bhakti from the demons. They will read the Bhagavatam and they won't understand that part. They will understand the part about Jnana in the 11th canto or in the 3rd canto, but they won't understand about Bhakti at all. So Bhagavatam hides that from them. But it gives that sweetness to the devotees, as Mohini gave the nectar to the Devatas. Okay? So the Bhagavatam does a dual function. It hides certain things from the demons and it gives them to the devotees. Okay? So we should not expect that Bhagavatam will explicitly say everything. You will have to look for the real meaning sometimes. Okay? For instance, at the end of the Bhagavatam in the 12th canto, to summarize everything, and then Sukadev makes a statement to Parikshit Maharaj, and if an impersonalist will read this, he will be very, very satisfied. From beginning to end, the Srimad Bhagavatam is full of the Lord's pastime, which give bliss to the devotees endowed with the sense of renunciation. This Bhagavatam is the essence of all Vedanta philosophy because its subject matter is one Brahman, a substance with no duality. The main goal of the work is merging. So then they said, yes, ultimately, though, pastimes that Krishna described in the 10th canto, etc., it's all Maya. Because here it says, impersonal Brahman is the highest, and we should merge into Brahman. So the impersonalists, like the Mayavadis, will be really satisfied with this. This is the conclusion of Bhagavatam. Yes, entertaining, pastimes of Krishna, entertaining for while you're in Maya. Well, when you get out of Maya and you merge in Brahman, finish. So that's the goal. So this is what the impersonalists will conclude. Says that at the end. But this again is words to bewilder the demons. Because, well, no, this is actually not true. If we see if we take a summary of all the other statements in Bhagavatam from beginning to end, over and over, we'll see how impersonalism and merging is condemned, and that the devotees reject the merging in Brahman, this form of liberation, Sayuja, they reject it completely. So many statements are there in each canto. So this is a contradiction to that. So therefore, we cannot accept the statement. based upon the correct interpretation of the text. So the Lord often does this, not only in Bhagavatam, Upanishads, etc. The Lord will often hide things. Like Krishna himself says this to Uddhava in the 11th canto. The Vedas divided into 3 divisions, ultimately reveal worship of the Lord. The Vedic seers and mantras, however, say this indirectly, since they know I prefer this indirect method. So things will not be always presented directly. They're somewhat hidden, and that's what makes the Bhagavatam into Mohini. Some things are hidden, but only revealed to the Lord. So in this way, we have to study the Bhagavatam with good intelligence and not just take isolated statements like that last statement we saw about glorifying merging in Brahman. We have to study very carefully. And it's a little difficult, but then we have the commentaries of the Acharyas to help us. So this way we can get a very, very deep meaning of everything. So the Bhagavatam is divided actually in not only the Bhagavatam, but major Puranas are, they have 10 subject matters, which are mentioned at the beginning of Bhagavatam, also at the end. Sarga, Visarga, Sthana, Poshanam, Uti, Manvandhara, Ishanatatta, Nirod, Mukti, and Asraya. So these are the 10 topics of which a major Purana will discuss. So, of course, ultimately, the main topic of Bhagavatam is Krishna, but then we get all these other topics. And because there's so many topics, 10 topics, you may get a little bewildered by this. So we're supposed to be talking about Krishna, but here we got Mahavishnu with the creation of Mahatattva and all of these technical things about material elements being discussed. Why we did all this? One is a subject of Purana. So Sarga is the first topic, that is the primary creation where Mahavishnu glances and Prakriti turns into Mahatattva and Ahankara and all the material elements, the senses, etc. They form into universes, etc. Then Vishnu enters into each universe, and from himself Brahma, and then Brahma creates all the planetary systems and the bodies for the living entities. So the first is the Mahavishnu glancing over Prakriti and creating elements. That's called Sarga. And we'll find that discussed in the 3rd canto. Then after that, Brahma enters into the universe and takes all the elements and puts them together and makes lokas and bodies for the living entities. Largely discussed in the 4th canto. Then, those planets created by Brahma, where the living entities with their material bodies can live, they need somewhere to enjoy. So he makes different sthana or different sthiti for them. That's described in the 5th canto of Bhagavatam, where we get a nice description of Bhumandala, all the dvipas, then all the heavenly planets up to Brahmaloka, and all the other lower planets down to Patala. And these are places for the living entities with the material bodies to reside so they can try to get some enjoyment. So that's called the sthana or the geography of the universe. So in this way, we get the creation of the universe, the inspiration of Mahavishnu, the creation of all the planets there, creation of all the bodies. And ultimately, we got the Lord entering in there to guide the living entities. So that's called Poshanam. That there is the Lord does not leave the living entities in the material world. He's always there to give them some guidance, information, etc. So in the 6th canto, we get Poshanam, how the Lord protects the devotees. Even if they're not devotees, someone like Ajahn gets protected because he takes shelter on the name of Vishnu. Yeah? So in various ways, the Lord makes arrangements in this world for the jivas, so they can advance. Another topic is called uti, which means impulses. So within the material world, we got the creation of the planetary system, we get the living entities in the different planetary places. But then we always have this tension within the universe. The tamasic and rajasic versus the sattvic, the demon versus the devotee. Yeah? So that conflict from the very beginning of creation, when Brahma creates the Rakshasas and others, and Devatas, we get a competition going on within the universe between the forces of good and evil. So that's discussed in the 7th canto, where we have Sanikasipu, his followers, and then we get Prahlad on the other side. So within the universe, we have this conflict between the demons and the devotees. And of course, the Lord comes and protects the devotees. In the 8th canto, we get a discussion of the different manvantaras. So this is another way in which the Lord helps protect the devotees. Within the day of Brahma, we get 14 divisions of 71 yuga cycles each, making up a total of 1,000 years cycles, and 71, 71, 71 to make 1,000, 14 divisions. So over this 1/14th of the division, then we get Manu's dynasty of Manu, from Swami Manu to the first one. Now we're in Vivasutta Manu in his reign. It goes on for 71 yuga cycles. So they are special empowered beings to establish Varnashram Dharma and spread bhakti in the world. So they're the rulers. Their dynasty rules for 71 yuga cycles. The Lord establishes every 71 yuga cycles a new Manu, and he reigns for that period of time. So these are described in the 8th canto of Bhagavatam. 9th canto discusses other stories about the Lord. Of course, all the other cantos do that also, but particularly 9th canto, we got the story of Ramchandra. So we get other stories about the Lord and his devotees, and how the Lord is there to guide the devotees' avatar. So the 8th topic is called Mukti. So the living entities are stuck in the material world with their material bodies on the planets, different planets within the universe, and they're going through this whole struggle of good and bad, and demons and devotees and whatever, warring with each other. We got the protection of Manu there to help them out, etc. And then ultimately, many go for liberation and Mukti. So the concept of Mukti is described how to get out of the material world. And then the 9th topic is called Nirodha, or destruction. So after the creation of the material world, that this whole period of maintenance goes on with the planetary systems and the demons and devotees and Manu, etc. So 14 Manu is the one day of Brahma. Brahma's day goes on for 1 year and then 100 years, etc. like this. And all this protection of the devotees is going on, and the demons attacking, etc. goes on in each cycle. And then finally, at the end, everything is destroyed. All the matter, all the elements merge back into Prakriti. All the universes disappear. Nothing remains except Vishnu. Mahavishnu is there. But that's Nirodha. So the whole creation, destruction, everything in between is the subject of those different cantos. But the 10th topic is Asraya. What is the supreme cause? What is the supreme shelter of everything? So that is Krishna. So Krishna is described in the 10th canto. So we have all these different topics there. Some are like the lamb, Sarga and Nirodha, creation of destruction, general topic. Lord creates the world destroys the world, general power of God. Then we get God manifesting himself in other forms as Guna avatars. Brahma is the creator of the universe, for instance, Shiva, destroyer, etc. We get the avatars coming in there. All these things. So these are displays of more details about the powers of God in this material world, like the sun. And then the highest fruit of the tree in the Vedas, that is Bhagavatam. And in Bhagavatam, we get Krishna. So this is like 10th canto. Right? Srimad Bhagavatam is the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam is like the highest fruit of the tree. Okay? So all the topics are there. We should not be too confused by them. We have to relate everything to the Asraya, to Krishna in the 10th canto. And all the other topics that there are simply illustrate how that Supreme Lord Krishna penetrates down to the lowest level of the universe and guides people back to him. So that's the whole purpose of Bhagavatam. So we may be a little confused why Bhagavatam presents so many topics. Why not just have that canto finish? You don't even ask. Why not just bhakti way the discussions of Kari Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Astanga Yoga, and the 3rd canto, the 4th canto. This is all confusing for people. So Bhagavatam is like Krishna, and Krishna is multifarious. He's like multiple personality. He could be many, many different things to many, many different people. So the same with the Bhagavatam, many different things to many different people. Like Krishna, when he appeared in the arena of Kamsa, then different people saw him differently. One person, everyone saw him differently. The rest of us saw him like a lightning bolt, very, very strong, and very rasa. The men of Mathura saw him like the best of males, this is astonishment rasa. The women of Mathura saw him as a lover, Madhurya rasa. The cowherd boys saw him as their relative and friend, and they joked with him. It's Sakya rasa and Hasya rasa. The impious rulers, the friends of Kamsa, saw him as the punisher, angry person, the Rauda rasa. Vasudeva and Devaki and Nanda Maharaj saw him as their child, that's Vatsalya rasa, and Karuda rasa, pity. Kamsa saw him as death, that's fear rasa, Bhayanak rasa. The unintelligent saw him as a material body, and they looked at him with disgust because he had blood on his body from killing the elephant. The yogis saw him in Shankarasa as the absolute truth. And the Vrishtis saw him as a worshipful deity, that's Dasirasa. So different people saw one Krishna, and he manifested all different rasas for them. So similarly, Bhagavatam will manifest all different things for different people. So the people who are interested in Karma Yoga will go there, they'll study Varnashram Dharma. Those who are yogis will go there to study Ashtanga Yoga. Those who are Gyanis will look at the impersonal aspect, Brahman aspect. Those who are devotees will understand about Krishna. And we'll see that as the essence of everything. Okay? So all the topics will give joy to the devotees because we'll relate it all to bhakti. So though the other topics there, we don't isolate those topics and we also don't reject them. But we coordinate them with the final topic, that is the Asraya Krishna. So therefore, it's only for these other people that the different topics take on different meanings. Otherwise, everything is related to Krishna. So that's how we should study the Srimad Bhagavatam. Okay. Hare Krishna.
Krishna Maharaj, thank you for the nice class. It was very clear, see the position of the Bhagavatam. I just had one question. One of the slides that mentioned that Bhagavatam has 5 meanings. So
No, that's the first verse. The first verse of Bhagavatam. So Jiva Goswami is kind of elaborate. Vishnu Thakur did elaborate commentary, says they give 5 different meanings. One is a general spiritual meaning. Another is more particular with Krishna. One is Radha Krishna. One is Madhurya Rasa, like this. So they'll take each word and analyze it in different ways. So out of one verse, we get 5 completely different meanings. So Bhagavatam you can study very deeply also, but the meanings are a little bit hidden from people in general. But for the devotees, they will get all these different meanings out of it.
So my question was that is there a specific connection to this 5 meanings to the general understanding of Bhagavatam itself, or is just limited to the first verse? Can you see the entire Bhagavatam as these 5 meanings, or is it just?
Well, as I said, the Bhagavatam it's like a deepa, gives general knowledge, not the body, spiritual, etc. The Adhyatma Deepam. It can have a more particular meaning, like the sun, and it reveal many, many different aspects of everything. But then it can also be like the highest fruit on the desire tree, the Vedas, and it can also reveal us to the, Madhurya Rasa, Radha, and Krishna. So all of those things, so you can get all those aspects of spiritual life out of the Bhagavatam, as well as getting Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga, etc.
Thank you.
Thank you, Maharaj, for the Srimad Bhagavatam. I have a few questions about the creation, Maharaj, the creation aspect. So, first question is that the Mahavishnu when the jivas are in the body of Mahavishnu, so do they have settled body? Because that time the even the element settled body is not there.
Gone.
It's no settled
It's
body.
only jiva.
It's only soul, pure soul.
His karma is not destroyed. It sits there waiting for him. When he comes out and goes into the universe, it grabs it and goes back to his, continues his karma from previous universe. But no subtle body, no ghost body. All the elements disappear one into the other. They all merge in Mahatma, merge in the Prakriti, so nothing is there. So it's just the jiva without a subtle or ghost body. That's the only time the subtle body disappears for the jiva in the material world. Otherwise, the gross body disappears with each death. The subtle body sticks to the jiva. One body does throughout the day of Brahma, throughout the life of Brahma. Subtle body sticks to that jiva. And they stick to him until Mahapralaya. And that exists for him. So he's free until he gets another body, goes into another universe. And he must go because he's got his karma waiting for him. So then he accepts a subtle body, the karma sticks to that, and then he gets a body according to that karma.
Second question, he said there are two paras of Dhamma. Two paras, 50 years and 50 years. And at the end of the day of Brahmaji, all the three words get destroyed, but Brahmaloka, Tapaloka, Satyaloka remains.
Yeah.
But in this day of Brahma, there is creation of the Kumaras. So does that indicate that at the end of first 50 years, there is some partial annihilation of the universe or a more bigger destruction than the normal days?
Well, I don't know about that, but actually the Kumaras are born in the first day of Brahma's life, not first part of his party. The very first time when Brahma is born from the lotus, and then he comes out, then the Kumaras and Narada come out. And they continue throughout whole Brahma's life. They don't go through creation because they are actually Shakti-Avatars, and they have eternal bodies.
But in the third Maharaj, after describing the time, describe the Sarva in this day.
Yeah.
And then the mention of the Kumaras is there.
Yeah. Well, they were just manifesting, but they're not created. So, but actually they're eternal. So they're not created at all, even with Brahma on the first day. But they are eternal bodies. They're not destructible at all. So he doesn't give them a body. They actually exist in the spiritual world. Kumaras and Narada Muni and
the universal form, it says that at the Bhagavatam, Vishnu enters a universal form and then everything comes from the universal form. So, is it necessary for devotees to understand this universal form, or just second time where it is mentioned as indicated that this is the way creation is happening, or how devotees should understand the universal form, because maybe this is for that persons?
actually, in the first and second candles, we get 6 descriptions of the universal form over and over. And keep repeating this in different ways, of course. But from that, we're to understand that in the creation of the material world, among the elements, we have senses and sense objects, which don't appear to us to be like material elements like this, like earth, water, fire, and filter, etc. Then we get senses and sense objects and things like this, as well as mind and substance, feel like that. So, in other words, the creation of material elements is actually we're creating the elements for a body, senses, sense objects, which are attached to bodies. So, therefore, we take the elements and put them all together with the senses, elements, body, etc. Then we get the universal form. But it can't operate by itself unless it has the soul. So who's the soul? Supreme Lord, Parama. So therefore, for the bodies to operate in this material world on a large scale, the most abstract level of everything in the universe, and not individually, there are all the bodies, we need the Paramatma to give life to the body, as well as the jiva. The Paramatma is there. So necessary for coordination of all of our activities so that we can see, form, smell, fragrance, hear, sound, etc. Right? So that, in other words, the whole creation is made in such a way so that Jiva's can enjoy it. Basically, that's the whole idea behind that analogy.
Thank you, Maharaj, for that presentation. So, Maharaj, I don't understand why Jiva Swami writes that we should not classify one canto for one particular topic.
Yeah.
Because while studying, we study Sarga for third canto, so like that. So, I think that is.
Yeah, well, now there's different opinions on that. Sridhar Swami and Vishwanath kind of put different cantos for the different subjects in general. But of course, Jiva Goswami's argument, we got 12 cantos and 10 topics. So how is it logical that you could put one canto for each topic? So Vishwanath skips out the first canto and starts with the and second canto. And third canto he goes on and goes from there to the 12th canto. The other point, of course, is that and even Vishwanath admits is that all cantos have all topics actually. But then again, by prominence, we see that third canto does have a prominence of this whole description of Mahavishnu, etc. Then fourth canto, third canto and fourth canto have this creation of Brahma and creation of all the living entities, etc. And fifth canto definitely is all about the sthana, the material thing. So that those are very, very definite. And Nirodha is particularly discussed in the 12th canto of the system of fourth construction. The 8th canto is particularly about the Manus and the future Manus, Manvantara periods. So there are topics which are quite unique to certain cantos themselves. So based on that, Vishwanath gives that version. But all topics in all cantos is also valid.
Thank you.
Another question is that can you describe what is the spiritual body and what is the spiritual body of Bhagwan? Like our spiritual body and Bhagwan's spiritual body. Like what is how is it? Like Sachidananda will say, but if it is such eternal, but not able to understand.
Well, we can only understand the material body, how it works. Even the scientists cannot really understand how it works, or how the subtle body is connected to the gross body. Even that we don't understand. They don't understand the subtle body. We'll just speak of how the soul is connected to the gross material body and the subtle body. All very mysterious subject matters. Anyway, the spiritual body is a manifestation from the Chit Shakti or Srup Shakti or Krishna, spiritual energy, not material energy at all. And it will manifest with the devotee. Will not manifest with the materialist because he doesn't believe in the Shaktis of the Lord at all. There is no Shakti for Brahman, so he doesn't manifest in his spiritual body. So the devotee, by nature, of course, each Atma is a conscious particle, which means consciousness means awareness. It also means there's a center of identity, I perceive. So that's essential to the jiva himself. And of course, I experience. And then ultimately in spiritual world, I can experience bliss. So these are things which are inherent in the jiva to perceive, to experience, and to do also inherent in the jiva. But they won't manifest in any particular way unless we do bhakti. So bhakti itself is also that Shakti of the Lord, internal Shakti, particularly Hladini and Samvit Shakti. That's bhakti. Okay? So when we keep doing bhakti, then we get this Hladini Samvit Shakti joining with the jiva, manifesting in bhava state and becoming fixed in prema. So the Samvit Shakti is what? It means knowledge. Knowledge of what? Knowledge of Krishna, obviously. So in bhava stage, you realize Krishna. How do you realize him? You see him, you hear him, you speak to him, and you serve him. So how do you do that? You need senses. How you serve him? You need a body. So through that Samvit Shakti, the senses and the body manifest for the jiva. So we get a spiritual form manifested in bhava and prema through the Shakti of the Lord. And then through that, one can experience, and we don't need a material mind, a material ahankara, or whatever, but through the Pladini Shakti, we get the experience of bliss through that in our experience of the world. So it's all the internal energy of the Lord, and it naturally develops and forms into spiritual body with our practice of bhakti. If you don't do bhakti, nothing manifests.
Before doing this awareness of 90%. We don't have any spiritual form, so we are just like a light of something.
Well, we're Atma without particular form. We're consciousness.
Without doing nothing, I just
Yeah. You merge in Brahman, I am Brahman. And we don't see anything because there's no duality. You don't see anything, you're just conscious.
Is the spiritual form is the sankuchit form in the jiva, or is it avoided separately by the internal energy?
You see?
The spiritual form is already in the soul, but in a sankuchit form, that it has eternal relationship with the Lord.
Well, and it's always eternal. Everything spiritual is eternal. Where it is doesn't really matter, because if you don't do bhakti, it will never manifest anyway. And if you do bhakti, then Krishna's versicle will manifest. Where it comes from Krishna, obviously. But then Krishna's within you also. So then one sense is within you because Krishna's got everything within him. So he's with all of the Shaktis within you. So in that sense, it's within you also. Yeah. So it's never apart from you, because Krishna's never apart from you also. But I think inside, outside, or where it comes from doesn't really matter, because spiritually, we should not analyze things in terms of here and there and outside and inside. Because Krishna's everywhere.
In one of the slides, where you presented the division of pranas for the different audiences, like so there, Matsya Puran and Purva Puran were appearing under the category of people who are under Tamo Puran.
Yeah.
How is that?
Well, they are the ones that probably sponsor the Purana or they speak the Purana, but then they start glorify, tell stories about Shiva, everything like that. So because prominence of subject matter, they're classified as Tamasic Puranas. But as I said, Tamasic doesn't mean that Veda Vyasa is Tamasic or the speakers are Tamasic, but they're telling stories to encourage the people of Tamagura. It will also tell things about Vishnu. So therefore we will quote from the Skanda Purana or the Linga Purana or the Shiva Purana, because they also glorify devotees of Vishnu, etc. But they also have stories glorifying Shiva and how Shiva is superior to Vishnu, etc. So those stories are for the people of Tamaguan to get in faith in Lord Shiva.
Yeah, but typically we don't hear that people in Tamoguna, they have inclination to read even Matsya Puran or Purva Puran, or is that so?
Well, they may not nowadays in the modern world, we probably don't read anything. Even the Shiva Purana, not many Shiva bhaktas probably even read that. They just go to the temple to worship, they don't even read any scriptures. Okay.
Last question.
Hare Krishna. Very important. I have one understanding now. We as a humanity, besides people this one. We go to spiritual world. So God is still with us as
No, Paramatma is a function of the Lord. It's not different from Bhagavan, but he is a function of the Lord who presides over the material world. So therefore, if the material world is Paramatma, he's witnessing everything, etc. He's neutral, all that. Bhagavan is not neutral at all. He's prejudiced towards the devotee, surrenders to the devotee. So quite a different function. And so the Paramatma is not necessary in the spiritual world because he doesn't have to manifest, he doesn't have to witness all your sinful activities or whatever like that. Instead, Bhagavan manifests and he witnesses all your devotion and he responds to that. So no necessity of a witness for your karmas, etc.
May I know why Bhagavatam called as Paramahamsa Samhita?
And can you please tell how to identify Paramahamsa?
No. Well, as I said in Bhagavatam, it's for the, it rejects all Kaitava Dharma and presents the highest pure bhakti and the highest prema. So in that sense, it's for the highest persons. At the same time, it's for everybody in Kali Yuga. Everyone should read the Bhagavatam. They should give up Shiva Purana and Tamasa Puranas and whatever, or even Rajasa Puranas, even Satya Puranas, and just read Bhagavatam. It's the essence of everything. But because it does present the highest thing, which may be difficult for other people to contact because it's like Mohini, therefore ultimately it's for the very rare souls who can appreciate the highest tattva of all, that is the great devotees. Fortunately, by the mercy of Lord Chaitanya, it's become available to everybody through chanting the holy name. So therefore, everybody was qualified to understand the essence of Bhagavatam and Radha and Krishna.
You spoke about Shrutis and Smriti.
Yeah.
So, with respect to Smriti, so one is Bhagavad Gita is considered both a Shruti and Smriti. What we are doing. So, how is that? We can consider it as a Shruti. And another thing is this Smriti, is it only on the basis of faith that we can accept that it's coming in Parampara and it's not diluted? Or is there any other ways of showing Smriti as authenticity? Because of having contaminated faith, there are so many apasampradayas and not having faith in the Smritis. So how do we?
Well, one thing, of course, the Smriti, of course, is a general category. Everything that's not Shruti in the accepted scripture we call Smriti. Then the other meaning of Smriti is particular Smriti Shastras, like Manu Smriti, which are all concerned with Varnashram. So that's a particular type of Smriti. Then the other Smriti is Puranas, Itihasas, Smritis, Pancharatra, we call all that Smriti because it's not Shruti. So that's the distinction between Vedas and everything else. So as for the interpretation, whatever, then all these scriptures have to go through some parampara. So Vedavyasa established parampara for the Vedas. So he gave one of his disciples the Rig Veda, another the Sam Veda, another Puranas. Like this, he gave different his disciples to be in charge of council, and then they continue their sakas or their different paramparas that way. However, all of this gets a little bit corrupted in Kali. So therefore, Lord Chaitanya came and he revealed the Bhagavatam and he established a parampara for giving the proper meaning of the Srimad Bhagavatam. So therefore, we have our parampara Bhagavatam. That's what we get here. How can we accept it? To accept anything requires a certain faith. We have a belief and attraction for it, so therefore we'll accept it. So those who are fortunate will accept the line of Lord Chaitanya. Those who are less fortunate, maybe they'll accept some other line, some other sampradaya, whatever. Not necessarily wrong, but a different conception, maybe worshiping Vishnu instead of Krishna, whatever. Not all Vaishnavas, so nothing wrong with that. But at the same time, we say Krishna has got 4 extra qualities, sweeter, etc. So there's a special advantage in that. If you're fortunate, you'll get attracted to that. That's based on that faith, which will arise also by mercy of the devotees who have that faith. Well, we actually it's technically classed as Smriti, and only the Vedas and Upanishads are classed as Shruti. But even in the Bhagavatam itself, it says the Bhagavatam is Shruti. It says that it's equal to the Shruti, and it includes all of it. And it goes beyond all the Shrutis itself. So we glorify it as the Vedas, called the Shruti. But technically, all this is classed as Shruti.
Very much. So who want to get more knowledge, the books is there, how to chant Harinam Chintamani, and where we are doing in devotional stages, very nicely explained by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Madhurya Kahani, and then Bhakti Aloka, letter of instruction, text 2 and text 3, and then Bhakti Tattva Viveka by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, nicely technically analyzed, and then Raga Asma Chandrika, how to develop spontaneous attraction for devotional service. Anyone wants can take from Maharaj's hands. It's just 500, and you can pay the money later also. Just you drop your name and number. Once, you can raise your hand. Yeah, come on. So we can encourage by Hare Krishna mantra, so that he will bless for reading very nicely. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. We continuously encourage Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. So, list of the 150 books are there. It's great. So please have a look. His Holiness Bhanu Swami Maharaj ki, His Holiness A.C. Bhaktivinoda Swami Prabhupada ki, Jai Gaur Premanand.